Hello and welcome to MxM Live. Here with us today is veteran media person Shripad Kulkarni. Shripad Kulkarni, as we know, has spent over 4 decades in the media business in the Indian media and been a very active participant. He has been an educator, and I must say that he is a friend of MxM. Just earlier this week, he wrote this Big Bang report for us, which basically spoke about how the the spends have been doing in the last 3 months, especially in the all important festive period. He has been doing, writing articles for us. Last week, he wrote something about the Mumbai Murrah closure as a daily. And even last year, he had done a festive special. So welcome to MxM Live, Shripad.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
So let me get to the bottom of the and the reason for doing this interview. The report that you have published, and I've seen we've published the excerpts of it on the website, but the detailed report I have seen, and I'm looking at it as we speak. You have said that the non-sports revenue has gone down by 19.3%.
Yes.
And yet you say it is Achhe Din?
Yes, yes. See, because I think this is a tsunami which has happened, which is the digital disruption in the media ocean happened a few years back for India. And in the shallow waters of COVID, we are seeing what the waves could be when they hit our shores, the media shores, in the year 2022 festive. By that time, they will reach, and digital will shave away a good 10% of mass media overall. So what we have done in this report is. I have taken IPL out of the entire analysis for the simple reason that it was not there last year during festive, and it's not a like-to-like comparison. So what we find is that only IPL has grown by about 12%. We have news genre has grown by about 6%. And all other genres, predominant all other genres have declined. They have declined big time. And if you leave out the sports genre, that's largely IPL, and a period of Jan to October, because no point looking at it small phases, too many things happening, Then the non-sports genres of TV are down still by 19%. And that is despite the fact that in the festive period, during the period August to December, the bounce back has been very good, very good. So at one point of time in April, May, we were looking at a 60% drop in revenue for large networks. So that meant that we could lead to 40% down, but then it's now come down to 19%, which is why it's a bounce back.
And but do you think it is perhaps a little unfair because last year the entire spends concentration was on the non-sports channels because there was no IPL at that time, and here you have an IPL, so obviously a lot of money goes in there. So the money that would have otherwise gone into the non-sports has now been moved here.
Well, that's right. A like-to-like comparison is Jan to October last year versus Jan to October this year, leaving out IPL. So that the effect of IPL is nullified overall, and which is where the fact is that the non-sport genres have lost 19% of Jan to October, which is like-to-like comparison.
And you use the word tsunami, which is very interesting because the imagery that the word tsunami leads to is a lot of devastation, a lot of people falling by the wayside, a lot of deaths. We have already seen, in terms of media properties, quite a few media properties have shut shop or suspended operations, and we've just had a leading newspaper like Mumbai Mirror shutting down and its daily operations and turning into a weekly. So clearly there is a fair amount of destruction that has happened.
Yes. In fact, if you see destruction happens in a tsunami for two reasons. One is you are either off guard Or second is you are on a wrong footing. Your fundamentals, your base is not right. So what we have seen in this precursor to the tsunami, because of pandemic, is that the long tail is under greater threat. If you see the GEC1, of course, cricket has grown. IPL has grown by 12%, which is fantastic. The second is that the GEC1 has degrown by lesser than the overall thing. It's about 15 to 17%. But the longer tail has degrown dramatically. And the first casualty is the English genre, which has got more than halved. Just one pandemic has cut down the long tail of English genre to less than half. So that's what we are going to see as a kind of devastation that we talked about.
And by long tail, you mean essentially English entertainment, infotainment channels. Is that what you mean?
I mean, the long tail is the long tail in Hindi channels. There's a long tail in regional channels. There's a long tail overall in genres. There's a long tail of HD. And part of it will get challenged with digital, where the general perception is that top-end audiences, premium audiences, you will lose to digital like in a flash. And which is why you see the English genre going down dramatically. So two things. One is, where are you? Are you on sound footing? Second is, do you have a role post tsunami? That's what long tail has to address today.
But tell me, the spends aren't really going in the same, the same quantum of spends that were there on television or print or whatever. They're not moving to digital in the same way. Digital, the spends are much lesser, right? So where is that money? Are people conserving the cash on spends, or is it is this just the beginning and we will see more spends in digital in the future?
Yeah, the two things. One is, as a share of market, digital is surely improving, very, very clearly improving, which is obvious from all reports. So as a share of these spends, digital is easily getting a higher share. Print, of course, has lost big time and is now, they have got to ask themselves a serious questions. I'll come to that in a moment, what strategies they need to deploy, all the long tail and people who are threatened. And the thing is that this was a crisis. And to get out of a crisis, you need a big bang. You need to shake up the ecosystem, which is what IPL actually achieved. Both the, if you look at Board of Cricket Control, as well as the, Disney Star team, both need to take a bow. Board of Cricket Control showed the world, Pradyuman, how we can get out of a crisis. The first big major event, which was a success. Now, why was it a success? They got 5% more airtime on live, a good 5%. Second, they managed to sell it at a premium. So overall, they grew by as easily 12% is my estimate. The revenue of IPL versus last year grew by 12%. And third, which is the most important as far as the sales team is concerned, is when you are in sales, you have to pre-sell the event. By that time, there would have been some uncertainties. Kaise hoga, kya hoga, title sponsor nikal gaya, they must have compromised there and so on and so forth. So actually, the sales team need to take a big bow of the IPL sales team.
So tell me, what you use the word big bang, which is very interesting, and you've got these buttons, tsunami, big bang. So what is the kind of big bang that one can do, and what can, say, a sector like print do specifically to ensure that it doesn't get blown away?
Yeah, I think print very easily got scared with this precursor of a tsunami, and they did not capitalize at all on the whole thing on fake news and real news, which was a big lacuna in the entire ecosystem. Print did nothing. Now, doing nothing in a crisis is where you will get hit, sure. Very, very sure you will get hit, And for example, I had written to the top stalwarts of the print industry in the heydays of the pandemic, saying, why can't you come out with a unified front page? You know, magazines in UK did that. Come out with a unified front page on real correct news on the pandemic, because there's so much nonsense floating around. We all easily got to know. And no response. No, so you have to do something, and that was a big bang. I thought that they missed. I do see somehow magazine association trying to do something together. Now see, television has in IPL a big bang ready. So cricket and movies are there because television by and large can be national. But print being regional, unless they come together, unless print unifies, they will not get a big bang.
No, it is often joked that you normally work with your brains or your heart, right? So do you think that perhaps the print sector works more by egos than by the brains and the heart?
See, all these are peripheral issues. Digital is a peripheral issue. The egos is a peripheral issue. Why I'm saying peripheral is, I'm going to the third point. Like you said, the first is the tsunami, second is the big bang. The third thing is that you have to have a challenger mindset when you are handling uncertainty, when you are handling crisis. You have to have a challenger mindset. You have to challenge something. You have to challenge yourself. You have to challenge something in the ecosystem. You have to challenge some marketing principle. So I think legacy media has to get into a challenger mindset. You can't be thinking, oh, I need to look at digital. There must be a digital team. Digital spends have to be there. Then you hive off digital. Then you want to sell digital separately. Then you want to bundle. All peripheral. You have to have a challenger mindset. And that brings me to two brands that I spoke about, in the entire exercise. So if you study, I studied the entire, brands, how they work, what did HUL do, what did some other brands do, and two examples stood out of people who got on with a challenger mindset. Now, funnily, both these are homegrown brands. Both these are Indian brands, and these Indian brands have shown the MNCs how to handle the crisis with a challenger mindset. The first brand I want to talk about is, both are these master brands, somehow. I think it's a coincidence. If you look at Amul, it's a huge master brand. I think they had a plan of a portfolio diversification in place before the pandemic. And they just went ahead aggressively. They supported 50% more brands that they did last 2 years. They increased their spends by more than 100%. And I think there is no glory without guts. They have shown the guts. To handle a crisis, you bloody have guts. That is the first brand that I
You mentioned about the fact that there was an increase of 123% in terms of the minutes.
Yes, commercial airtime.
Yeah. And the other one which you were mentioning is Dabur, I would say.
The other one is Dabur.
Yeah.
Now, so if you look at what Amul did is, Amul actually went very aggressively head on despite the crisis. So they had a product, which they looked at. It was a product portfolio which they looked at with a challenger mindset, and they went ahead. Dabur, on the other hand, saw a huge opportunity. They saw a huge Markham opportunity. They have a big portfolio. They have lots of brands. They have a brand for so many different segments. It's not funny. And they use this opportunity to again increase their commercial airtime by more than 100%. And they again promoted 50% more brands from their portfolio. They already had. And I'm sure they have reaped the glory. So both these people challenged challenge something in the marketing ecosystem, and they will see results. I think they have already seen some results, because what happens when you're in a challenger mindset, then these small hurdles you mentioned, ego, sometimes there is a, you have a cost cutting mindset, sometimes some other silly thing which holds you back, that all these shackles you break free. That I think is what this entire pandemic has shown us, and great learnings which we should all use. And especially the long tail media has to use, the legacy media has to use, and the long tail advertisers have to use. They also have to get into challenger mindset. Right now, if you see what has driven this entire bounce back is essentially health. The second is the new economy brands, and the third that has helped is the BFSI segment. So these three have shown, and of course our two Indian brands which have to also take a bow. So three people, they have to take a bow. One is the IPL people, which is the board of technical control and the marketing team. Second is these two people, Indian homegrown Indian brands. That's how I see the whole thing.
I noticed in the chart that you've given, obviously, there's no major rocket science to it, that auto went down by 25%. The services sector in all, and perhaps this also includes hospitality, went down by 13%. And of course, real estate went down by 11%. So all these sectors are down. You mentioned about health just now, and education has, of course, gone down.
I will take the question, the other one which is grown.
Right. So, just to bat for the print industry, the problem with the print industry was that people were just not buying the newspaper because there was a fear that the newspapers would transmit the virus. So in that sense, perhaps to be a challenger or to do something dramatically different would have been a little difficult, right?
See, when you are in a crisis, when you are back to the wall, how can you just lose without a fight? That's a simple thing that I'm talking about. You have to put up some fight. You have to put up something on the table which will show that you are looking at the future. You are thinking future. You are looking at something which is there, some plan, something. That's what I'm saying. Nothing lost. It doesn't mean that print is dead. For sure. In fact, I feel that there'll be one more big rise in spend that will happen. Because our structure is very funny. We have only 500 advertisers who account for over 95, 98% of spend. So that has to change. That will change. Once that changes, the whole spends will grow. अच्छे दिन जरूर बड़े आएंगे. Print will get a last chance that time with a spike. So 2-year window is what print still has as one last chance.
Let's hope that happens. I'm going to end this interview with a question for you. We are just 20 days away from the new year. Yes. None of the media agency networks which normally make a forecast around this time of the year have done so for India. Would you hazard a number or at least a trend as to how it will be? Obviously, year on year, it will increase, assuming that this was perhaps the worst possible year for media spends. But what do you think would it be next year?
Okay, there are two scenarios. Scenario one is if we get at least 2 more big bangs like IPL. Okay, and that has to come from other media. It has to come from something from digital, and something has to surely come from print. So if we get 2 big bangs, we will almost reach the same level as last year. This overall, since we have to add sports and IPL into it, that 90% will go down to maybe 17.5, 18. So next year, if you have 3 big bangs, we'll go down to maybe just about 2% or 3% lower than last year. So more or less last year's we'll get. If we do not get the 3 big bangs, it will take 2 years for us to reach the last year level. That's my forecast for you.
Any numbers would you like to put?
So like I said, with the big bang, next year will be about just 2% drop below last year's spends. And if you do not have big bangs, then
Last year meaning 2019.
That's right, 2019. And if there are no big bangs, then it'll take 2 festive seasons. So next to next year is when we'll reach that level of around 2019 level.
Well, all that one can say is we can't really suggest ideas to the media industry now, but surely we can end with the hope that some of these suggestions would be taken by them, and I'm sure.
The whole idea is that people like us, people like media, we have to drive this. It's a choice we can make, mind you. It's a choice. It's no ego, nothing else. It's what do you choose now? If you choose the right things now, we will reach there.
With that hope of optimism, with that hope for the Achhe Din to arrive, thank you very much for spending your time with us on MxM Live. And we look forward to more such reports, more such insights from you in future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.